create court proceeding. It's not something that fiscal court has the ability to change. We have a legislator sitting back there nodding, and the legislator, when they come up, they could change that statute if they so chose.
And going to court would be expensive.
Yeah, the dilemma that you have is that we have employees in the sheriff's office who are covered. We have employees who are not covered. From the rank of a lieutenant down, they are merit board. And what it does, Mr. Kendall, I guess he could promote everybody to a policy-making position, at which point they cannot forfeit their job. But I don't think he's inclined to make everybody that high. No.
Or you could just for a week, so they can,
Pardon?
could for a week so they can run.
It's been a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
We have issues going up and coming down in the statute as well. I wish it was that easy.
But the court has done recognize that even without a merit board in place, a deputy sheriff can't run against a sitting sheriff. I'm not running, so it makes them believe that they have a good opportunity to run and be elected as sheriff, some of the deputies over there. But by merit board, even without it, it's done been proven, it's done been tested. David Greenwell ran against Paul Parsley as when he was sitting sheriff, and Paul fired him because he did it.
Yeah.
And court upheld Parsley that he was right. He didn't have to let him run against him by the court.
We didn't have the merit board in place then either, right?
We didn't, but it wouldn't have made any difference. They absolutely cannot do it without resigning their position if they're lieutenant, sergeant, or deputy. Those are the protected people.
That's the very word. Mr. Kendall is correct, but also incorrect. That was a Supreme Court case, and it gave the sheriff the ability to terminate an employee that was running against him. The sheriff did not have to do that. The sheriff has that election. In this particular case, Mr. Kendall, 2 weeks ago, said, well, if anybody ran, he didn't care. And that was the part of the reason behind his belief that the merit board maybe was not a good thing, as well as other reasons that will go unstated. But as it is today, the sheriff basically has had second thoughts and comments from the deputy. So his statement to the fiscal court is that he really does not support it as he once did.
So in general, the KRS, in general, it doesn't matter if it's there or not, they can still lose their job.
No, as long as you have a merit board, that KRS is applicable. And there's nothing that we can do unless that statute was declared unconstitutional or the general legislature decides to amend the KRS.
I'm not talking about just general deputies, anyone that runs for sheriff as a deputy sheriff, it doesn't matter if you have a merit board or not. The judge or the sheriff has the opportunity to let them go.
The sheriff, under the statute, or excuse me, under the case law, the sheriff has the ability to terminate a deputy who runs against a sheriff.
Okay. That's the sheriff's call.
That's the sheriff's call. And if we had a sheriff who even was running and had a deputy, he is not automatically terminated. He can be terminated. And that is established by case law that unfortunately came out of Bullitt County.
So, I'm sorry.
It's incumbent upon me when I always come here and say something's wrong, but also make sure something that you do right is recognized too. Sheriff Kendall, you showed great insight and compassion for your deputies by allowing them to take that vote. And when the vote was taken, you lived up to your end of the bargain and made a recommendation to keep the merit board. I think it's important for these deputies to keep the merit board. We don't know what kind. We're not going to get a sheriff like Kendall. We're not going to get. We're always have the possibility of getting somebody in here who will lead with fear and intimidation, and that's the way it goes. If there's something inherently wrong with the merit board, I think we can work through the merit board and fix it, but still keeping the major protections. So I want to thank you, Sheriff. I think the deputies thank you for keeping your word, and I hope the magistrates take the recommendation and do not remove the merit board consideration. You have the best deputies in the state. There's not one of them that would not lay his life down for anyone in this room or anyone in this county. They deserve your support. They deserve better.
So, my simple mind is if we keep the merit board in place, and we make it what it's supposed to be, you know, use it where it utilizes your ability to hire, to promote, and on your word is if we have 3 deputies that want to run for sheriff, they can run.
No, they can't run. It's against the rules by the KRS.
Oh, okay, that's where I was getting at. I thought it was under,
They can't run as long as they're under American, they can't do it. And that's what I think is wrong with this system. I think your best deputies as candidates for sheriffs, it would make common sense to me that they would be your best candidates. Somebody that's been in law enforcement in this county, that knows the county, knows the people, and would be excellent. There are several of them would be excellent sheriffs. They can sit in that chair and do that work. But they can't be available to run because of the merit board.
You have to promote them. You'll have to promote them.
Well, I don't think it'd be appropriate.
already have to get with our legislature to get that changed.
Yeah.
Would that prevent police officers from municipalities and county from running for sheriff?
Only if they have a merit board.
Only,
And there's not many merit boards. in
I
the
was gonna say,
country.
do we have any?
There's probably 5 to 8 merit boards throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Louisville has a merit board.
But none
Most
other
do
than
not. Most do not.
Most are not.
They have a policeman's bill of rights that is also set up under KRS that basically protects police officers against, I guess, spurious accusations. But it is not a statute that gives them the job protection that.
I think sheriff, civil service corps, is that the same number?
Similar.
There's Sheffield Police that are running for sheriff, a couple of them. So apparently they're not under that rule.
It's whatever they've adopted. And they set up their own system. And they can chamber to the city of Shepherdsville as they choose.
Okay, any other question on this issue?
Judge, I think what we really need to do is let Mr. Blair read this ordinance for the second time. Because we kind of really had the discussion before it goes, so we really need to go ahead and put it up. Then if we want more public discussion, we'll have it, and the fiscal court will make a note. But we do have to do the second reading. So now we get that taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Blair, for the second reading.
Commonwealth of Kentucky, Bullitt County, ordinance number 17-23. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 13-17. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 13-17 relating to the creation, operation, and authority of a deputy sheriff merit board, created pursuant to KRS 70.260 through 70.273. Whereas Bullitt County Fiscal Court commit to assist the Bullitt County Sheriff with operating his office in the most efficient, effective manner. Whereas Bullitt County Fiscal Court determined that the repeal of ordinance number 13-17 will assist the Bullitt County Sheriff with the efficient, effective operation of his office. Whereas Bullitt County Fiscal Court determined that it is in the best interest of the Bullitt County Sheriff and citizens of Bullitt County to repeal ordinance number 13-17. Now therefore be ordained by the Fiscal Court of the State of Bullitt County, Kentucky, that the Bullitt County ordinance number 13-17 shall be repealed in its entirety and shall no longer be enforced in effect. This ordinance will take effect and be in full force upon passing publication as required by law. Given first reading of the regular meeting of the Fiscal Court of Bullitt County, Kentucky on the 5th day of September 2017. Given second reading vote upon the regular meeting of the Fiscal Court of Bullitt County, Kentucky on the 19th day of September 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Clary.
I'll make a motion that we do not pass ordinance 1723.
We have a motion and a second. And any questions or discussion? Ms. Bonner, you want to call it up?
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson? Mr. Russell? Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Judge Roberts?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Sheriff, for
Yes, sir, thank you.
not, for just, doing what needs to be done. I appreciate it very much, Sheriff. Thank you. Okay, number 13 is the new business on the addendum. Action requested on Spectrum Internet Service Agreement with Canyon Zoning. Yes, Ms. Director. Okay, go ahead.
I'm asking to change our internet service from Windstream to Spectrum, and this is not only good for planning and zoning, but code enforcement and solid waste. Between the three departments on the third floor of the annex, we're paying over $200 to Windstream. Spectrum come in at $65 for all of us. And once that's, promotional, but once that promotional is done, I think a year, it'll be up to $99. We're getting a lot faster service for a lot cheaper.
I'll make a motion, we switch to the Spectrum Internet service for planning and zoning.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
One thing, what is really cost involved in this?
There is a $99 installation fee,
That's
one
it?
time.
The court needs to add code enforcement to that as well.
Planning and zoning before.
Is there's nothing, all those together, everything's $99?
Yes.
And do you add solid waste?
Yes.
So,
I'm sorry.
PDA.
They're switching it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna call the roll, Felicia. Come on here, let's make sure we get low here.
Mr. Lawson?
Yes.
Mr. Laszlo?
Yes.
Mr. Reagan?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. That's a good situation there. We need to do that so we can progress
A
our.
lot faster service too. This is all you have in.
Okay, now, before we do the seating area, we're gonna do a 5-minute break. So, unless the court doesn't want to, I'll make a motion to do a break, but
Second.
thank you. You have a motion second? Call roll.
Yes. Hey, Okay, I'll get that to you.
Email There you go. Hey, come on. Already ready, let it to be official. Okay, folks, several people have come to discuss and to support, perhaps some are here to not support, but I don't think so. This is a discussion of fiscal court support of, let me say this is a discussion of the Shapiz Lane becoming a designated scenic corridor. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you very much. Judge, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, that might go discussion. I'm sorry. Okay, y'all.
So we go back in open session.
Yeah, you're ready, okay. We have a motion and a second to go back to the open session. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Cornell, please call the roll.
Mr. Russell?
Yeah.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yes.
Judge Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you. I'm Steve Phelps, and we are here today and are hopeful we can convince you for a favorable vote on sending an application for a scenic byway designation to the Kentucky Transportation Campus. But before we proceed, will you bear with me a few short moments and allow me to impart a small bit of history on why Shapiz Lane is truly a scenic byway. Long before the actual road was there, what we know as Shapiz Lane was a path, a trail that the buffalo followed to get to the salt licks, to nourish their bodies with that vital substance. The buffaloes, American Indians would follow these animals for food and clothing, and found uses for the salt as well. Now, in part, it was the salt licks that brought the early settlers to this area. Like the neighbors they would become, the early settlers used these buffalo trails because they were well traveled and made for an easier ride, whether by horse or in wagon. Among these early settlers was a man named Peter Shepherd. Peter was given a land patent in 1782 by Virginia Governor Benjamin Harrison. And as we know from history, both his son, William Henry Harrison, along with his great-grandson, also Benjamin Harrison, would become president of the United States. Peter Shepherd traveled to these parts and with family built a life that included a son, Adam Shepherd, who would found the city of Shepherdsville. In fact, there's a marker up on the grounds honoring that grave. Adam Shepherd had a daughter. Her name was Elizabeth. She becomes a very important person in my story, for it was Elizabeth who marries Ben Shapiz. Now, Ben's father, Henry, was a Revolutionary War surgeon and held property in Bardstown. So quite likely our young couple traveled between these two cities along our little buffalo. Ben and Elizabeth's family included two sons, Adam Shepherd Shapiz and Ben Jr., both whose role in our story are paramount. However, before I get to that, let me take you on a visual walk through history, starting at Bardstown Junction. A spot on the map where a Confederate company known as Morgan's Riggers, on July 6, 1863, burned the railroad trestles over Long Lick Creek, captured a northbound train carrying Union soldiers who had come to stop the Riggers. Morgan's Raiders would travel on, antagonizing the North, all in an attempt to bring the war to the North. Down the road, we come across the Trunnell Farm. With its history of its own, the Trunnell farmhouse brings a life to the valley. A son, Philip Trunnell, was a member of Morgan's Raiders when he ran off and joined the Confederate ranks at the age of 14. Probably the reason Raiders spent time at the farmhouse, but notwithstanding pages from a family book at the Trunnells also show an account where Ulysses S. Grant stayed at the house. Since we're talking about the Trunnells, let's speak reverently about the souls whose final resting place is the Trunnell Bowman Cemetery, now located in the Springs Division, an important and historical cemetery dating back to before the Civil War. Or a separate, smaller cemetery, the Hardy Cruz African American Cemetery, which probably contains the resting place of slaves originally owned by Jacob Bowman, and who later worked on the Trump farm. Across the road on Chappies, we have a small farmhouse, currently owned by Mr. George Miller. It is at this farmhouse that a descendant of a Revolutionary War hero, Archibald Magruder, was cared for by a family whose daughter would become the wife of the current state representative. Sherry Cogran's family, now Sherry Lever, lived with and cared for Gracie, several great-granddaughter of Archibald Magruder, until later in her life when the family, along with Gracie, moved to Hardin County, where she lived out her days. Continuing to follow the gentle meandering of the road, we find the old distillery founded by the Chappies brothers, Adam and Ben Jr. Their contributions to the now known Bourbon Trail tourist industry was and is Old Charter Bourbon. With its meager beginnings at the distillery along Lake Creek, the Old Charter brand bourbon is still made today, more than 120 years later. It has passed through many hands along the way, including those of Isaac Bernheim. But it's today distilled and bottled in Frankfurt in the Buffalo Trace plant. This brings our journey nearly to an end, but we cannot forget about the small Catholic church which still stands today. The Holy Redeemer number 2 is a private residence now, but was once one of only a handful of Catholic churches in the entire area. The Holy Redeemer Church was built on property donated by Ben Chappies, with lumber donated by Ben Chappies. And it was Ben who allowed the priest, Father Eugene A. Burratello, to live in and give masses in his home during the construction of his little church. It has been stated it was and I quote, "It was a small but lively church within." Father Bertello continued to live in the Chappies house until his tragic death in the train wreck on December 20th, 1917 in Shepherdsville. The little church's days were numbered from then on. Chappies Lane ends at Bernheim Forest, a renowned arboretum and research center. Now, this little bit of history only took a few moments to tell, but look at the impact our little Buffalo Trail has achieved. Not only for those of us who utilize the road daily, but for Bullitt County and all its citizens. And we just want to share it with the rest of the world. My point is, Bullitt County needs the scenic highway. Chappies Lane runs through a beautiful valley overlooked by rolling hills, the kind that Kentucky is known for. It meanders through the countryside along with Walnut Creek and passes through our history books practically from the beginning of the United States. Myself, my fellow citizens, homeowners, proud people of Bullitt County, ask and hope that each of you will send a favorable application for Chappies Lane to become a scenic highway for transportation.
Very nice, Steve. Thanks for putting that together. Excellent narrative on the history of Chappies. And you've got a great voice too. It's almost like listening to a tape. Yeah, hey, Marty. Excellent. Yes, Mr. King.
Yes, I would reveal up.
Yeah.
He has words as well.
I'm not a radio announcer. Pull out of the drums. Thanks for inviting us. I appreciate the job here. Our goal is, I want to make sure that everybody here understands that the people in our community, Southeast Bullitt community, it's number of homes back in the south of Salt Road, we are going to work with development here. We're not against growth. And I know Steve's referred to the historical value of Chappies Lane. We want to integrate that in with the type of growth that we're looking for as something that's compatible with the neighborhood, that my friends and neighbors can agree with, versus job shops, slaughterhouses, anything can come open under the present zoning conditions, which I understand, that's variable. And we want to work with everybody. So our goal is here that we want to change the comprehensive plan to the point of where everything east of I-65 and 245 and Chappies Lane is considered a tourist corridor. And to develop this accordingly for the benefit of the state for state taxes and county taxes. And some of the, as a matter of fact, on the front page of the vision statement, we are dedicated to preserving our rustic natural spaces, our forest hills, and abundant wildlife. We welcome visitors to come and travel the Bourbon Trail. This is Bullitt County's vision statement. The state has recognized that over the next few years, they expect 6 to 8 million people to be coming through the I-240 or 245 and I-65 corridor. 6 to 8 million people will be visiting because of the bourbon industry. Being a Southern Baptist, that's why, and my mother was somewhere between an Amish and Mennonite. That's kind of hard for me to understand, but it's facts. 6 to 8 million people will be coming through this corridor, and the amount of revenue that can be generated here by this type of tourism could be so beneficial to our county if it's used properly and developed properly. Now, right now, as we are looking at it, we may be looking at it wrong, it may not be the exact facts. It is being handled, just whatever pops up is okay. So we're asking for direction from you all to help, and through the state, we've talked to everybody we possibly can. We've been talking to Bernheim, Bean is very interested in developing the property. We've gone beyond that with the wildlife management people. Right now, they're watching the waters of Long Lake Creek because of all the input right now, and the water diversion because of 61, Highway 61 and 245, all that build up, which is really contrary to the comprehensive plan. All that land changed, built it up 10 feet, and we seem to have left it. But I want to point out a couple of statistics, and I won't keep you long. This is how the comprehensive plan, total tourism and travel expenditures for bourbon houses, history in the region in 2012 were $3.7 billion, with $2.9 billion of it in Jefferson County in tourism. Now, we can get a piece of that. This was in 2012. This that took off the internet. It's open to anybody who wants to see it. It's under tourism impact. And you can search the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. And this is the date on, 9/18/217. It's, I think, 2016 statistics. Tourism contributes $14.5 billion to the industry, to the state. It is third in line with the auto industry, and the medical industry is second, and then tourism. We are missing the boat on tourism in Bullitt County. And ideally, I cannot think of any place better in Bullitt County right now to develop other than 245 and Chapiz Lane area all the way to the Nelson County line. And Bardstown right now is taking a big advantage of that, being the home of bourbon. And there was a battle there, there was an argument between Jefferson County through Louisville, which I can understand. Louisville's wanting to corner that market, and they're doing an excellent job. They have some existing infrastructure where they can use some of those old buildings. And it's quite quaint downtown. They're drawing a lot of people. That keeps growing. Kentucky tourism generates $1.52 billion in tax revenues to the state, and this, of course, is distributed out through the rest of the counties and the cities and whoever's involved. We're at a point in our history of Bullitt County, and things have changed in the last couple of years since the comprehensive plan was drawn up and put out. The thinking is changing, the administration has changed, the way of doing business has changed, and it's evolving. I think we need to catch up with this. And I had a couple of letters from our state. I'm going to prepare some things that was just put out. This, as a matter of fact, is in the newspaper right now. The Kentucky Standard. It's one that's on the shelf right now. Tourism is a good investment, says State Commissioner. A couple of statements she makes. Example, tourism in Kentucky in the last year generated $14.5 million in revenue, making it third behind automotive manufacturing and healthcare, provided 192,000 jobs. There are not too many places where you can put $1 and get $15 back. She went on to say. Says the commissioner said the state tourism department which she heads, needs to do a better job, and she's speaking on the state level, of guiding strategy and providing performance indicators for the local agencies, and its staff has spent the summer trying to get its employees outside of their comfort zones and thinking about what they can do to improve how to promote tourism. I think that Bullitt County has entered a comfort zone right now, and we need to look ahead at the tourism situation and take advantage of it while we still can. We're growing in leaps and bounds, as everybody knows, this county is, it's a growing county. It's not the fastest in the state right now. I understand some statistics right, but we're putting all our eggs in one basket. If you look around here, we have warehouses everywhere. And when you put all your eggs in one basket, every economist can tell you what will happen to you eventually. Right now, I've noticed in the last few days that Amazon is planning on making a state-of-the-art, humongous distribution center, and they're right now, Jefferson County and Indiana is bidding back and forth to see who gets this because of UPS. Now, I can't read, the history or the future on this, but that to me tells that these smaller distribution points could disappear. And that was my job is when I was working, I installed new equipment, automated lines, and I know you can walk into these buildings, especially when tax agreements run out, and they can be out of them in 2 months. Clear them out completely and move to another place that gives them a better deal. And here they are right now talking about building, I forgot what the square footage was, but they were amazingly large distribution points for Amazon.com. Just something I've noticed. Now, on the Bullitt County side, right now, as a matter of fact, this is, of course, Bardstown has its Bourbon Festival coming up, and they're taking advantage of it, and they're going to be bringing a lot of people through I-65 and 245. They are advertising in the newspapers, our articles in there. I have to admit, the bourbon industry has amazed me. I would have never thought that alcohol would have such a draw that it does. It's our state's history, which we've been involved with for quite a while. One of our articles on Shermansville comes from Pioneer News. Studies taken by Surtec Incorporated of her sales reported in tourism and supported 1,746 jobs in Bullitt County, down 155 from last year. This is an article written this year. Daily, $91,226 is generated from those jobs to worker paychecks, up from 86, so they've gotten pay raises. Not fewer people, but a little bit more money out of the deal. Travel and public dropped $94.4 million in our community last year. And that's basically probably because we're on I-65 and they're taking advantage of our fast food restaurants and what we have to offer here locally. Everybody knows we all live here. I had to chuckle one of the things that they mentioned as our tourist attraction, which I'm not downgraded because it's a nice thing, is the go-kart track. Now here we are sitting on the Bourbon Trail, and we're touting our go-kart track as one of them. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, I think that we're not seeing what the picture could be. And I think we need to adjust our thinking on this, and hopefully, we can bend your all's ear and hopefully start looking at Speed Lane and 245 to generate some interest in here in developing this for tourism, where we can start making the amount of money that we can generate from this, and it's beneficial for everybody. It'll produce more jobs. We probably can get by with motels without having to make big tax incentives for them. Well, they come in here, they're going to be coming in to make money, and the tax incentives will probably be secondary to them because we've got 6 to 8 million people come through this corridor, and this is I-65 and 245 is the front door to the Bourbon Trail. It's been called that in state government, and we need to take advantage of that. And I do want to emphasize to you that the neighborhood, my friends and neighbors, we are wanting to work with everybody on this. We want them to own the property. If they want to sell, we want them to make a good profit. We don't want to obstruct anybody, but we want responsible growth. And that can only be done through your all's leadership. And that's basically what we're asking for. So, any questions? It's short and sweet, but the numbers really caught my eye. You can go on the internet, and there is, I mean, if you search Bullitt County, or rather, Bullitt County Tourism, and Kentucky Tourism, or the Bourbon Trail, there's all kinds of information. I mean, it's just one article after another, all kinds, it's full of it. Some things that caught my eye, I'll throw this at you. This is on what the Back to Kentucky and Biosphere, the Bourbon Trail, is putting out right now. It's the latest thing on the internet. So you go through this, you'll see everything from Lexington, Owensboro, throughout the entire state, Lebanon, Marion County, Frankfurt, Versailles. And then if you get to the very end, it says click on this space to open up another site, and it'll take you to Shepherdsville. You have to read the fine print. You have to go to the hyperlink on there to notice that Shepherdsville is even mentioned. Just a point that I want to make to you all. So, any questions?
Well, I have one here that,
Yes.
and maybe Felicia can, has there been any discussion or anything with the comprehensive plan on the tourism trail, anything?
No, the planning commission made a recommendation to support this group's effort to submit an application to KYTC to become a scenic corridor. In order for them to become a scenic corridor, the applicant has to be either a city or county government. So the planning commission said they will support it. They do not want to make any changes to the comprehensive plan or make any type of special regulations for that area until they become designated as scenic corridor by the state.
Does the comprehensive plan have anything to do with tourism?
Yes.
Do we have a tourism corridor in the concept plan?
It talks about tourism and what you all can, what we can do to encourage tourism in the county. But we don't have an actual,
You don't have like an R1 like we do,
no.
like on there now, right now it's deemed light industrial, right, where we're at, most of it.
No.
This property has a mix. It starts at 245 next to where the winery is, goes down across. It comes out on Highway 61. You've got industrial already existing next to I-65. You have the distillery has a warehouse up toward the 245 end. You have the Spring subdivision. You have some other subdivisions. What you have is a very small road that runs from 245 to 61 that right now would have difficulty supporting traffic and development because of its functional deficiencies. This group came before the zoning meeting, and what they are doing is defined as a scenic byway. And the Felicia, or Ms. Harper, I guess I should address her, is aware that she's worked with the state, she's worked with groups that's done this, and while they want to do this, they do not have the legal ability to do it themselves. Quite honestly, the application is online, you can pull it up. I don't think at this point the county has what information it needs to even complete the application. So there's some more homework that would have to be done. And it's a very limited application. And I would want to advise the Southeast Bullitt community this in fiscal court. Having this defined as a scenic byway does absolutely nothing to anything. Everything would stay as it is because the county would have to do a tremendous amount of planning and design to come up with specific regulations that would address this. And I don't mean to rain on her parade, but I'll just tell you straight up how this works. Is that a scenic bypass is one thing, a tourism corridor is another thing, and a zoning corridor is still a third animal. So this is step one, and this group has been meeting for a long period of time, and they have opposed annexation, and they have done things, and they are a body that does have some resources behind it. But this is like a baby. This is their step one. If the state would even do this, it will not do anything at all to change any zoning regulation, any use of the property, and anything that goes on from 245 to 61. If the county would decide to do this and move forward, and they get all the necessary information, and if the state would create a scenic bypass, that's all that has been done. That will be the beginning.
It will be adopted into the comprehensive plan once it's revised.
Yeah, but the county has not, and the planning commission has not sat down. They've had some comments, and this group has submitted a lot of information, and I haven't sat down with them. I could. There's a lot of things in there that aren't going to happen because the zoning board does not have that ability. And when they choose to sit down with us, we'll sit down with them or with Ms. Harper. But again, whether the fiscal court's going to move forward today or if the fiscal court's going to, quote, advertise this as it should, because not everybody who probably has signed that petition owns property on Japanese land. And to enact this corridor, you're going to affect every single property owner that butts that road. And this got put on the docket pretty quickly, and I don't know if it's even on the fiscal, or not the fiscal court, because that's zoning meetings agenda they kind of published. But probably at the very least, you gotta have, for every pro, you got a con. And I think Mr. Kent, unfortunately, has been through enough meetings that he knows there's such a thing as due process.
Absolutely.
And to speak for something, you have to give the opponents the opportunity to speak against that. I think at that point, fiscal court can make the vote. They can become a, quote, sponsor of this. There's places for them to sign. And somebody is going to come up with a resolution, a narrative description, a visual submission, evidence of support, a map, and a management plan that to date has not been done. Am I correct?
Let me ask one other question to John and Lisa and everybody. Is this something that we may need to look at in the future here, creating another zone? Because we have conservation zones, we have different things, different zones and everything, and if we have something like it, does that, something, would that fit into this?
Well, what you really have is not a zone so much as a use of property within a corridor. The problem is properties that are lawfully zoned cannot be rezoned, and property rights that the people have cannot be infringed upon without compensation. So, and Mr. Kidsworth, he knows that if a property is zoned industrial, it can be used right now for anything within that confine. They have proposed to have I think a 500 feet maybe on each side. I've seen 245 go down. They argued from 500 to 250 to 150, and they never reached anything that was agreed to by anybody. But outside of this corridor, it would not do anything. If you had a big enough piece of property, you could sit back 500 feet from the scenic bypass and build the most obtrusive building you want, and there's nothing you can do about it. So to make this function, you're going to have to go far beyond just putting a few little regulations together. You're going to need the support of the whole community. Obviously, Beams, you need Bernheim, you need everybody out there to be kind of on board to make this work. It's a lot of work.
It has been long.
And they spend a lot of time, and they realize that all the time they've spent is only down to the step one. Yeah, I mean, we're not even talking about step 2 or step 3, and that's about where we're going. So probably they have presented this. What this report probably should do is at the next meeting, they should put on the agenda, and it should be basically given public notice that we have looked at this, we have heard this, and now we want the rest of the public input to come into whether or not the county should sponsor an application for a scenic bypass. I think that is probably where you're at this point. When you have that, depending upon what gets said, you all may vote that that's what we're going to do, and that's fine. Again, all you've done is create a scenic bypass. You have not changed anything. You have not changed the comprehensive plan. Yes, it does mention tourism, but it does not, quote, those specific things in there yet. And the comprehensive plan is what, barely 2 years old?
Correct.
And they find flaws in it every time we have a zoning meeting because we didn't see something like we should have saw.
I just want to say what other communities have done in our surrounding areas. They knew that there was this big bourbon industry, it was, let's get a part of it. Their magistrates kind of took it from there, kind of making it, changing some of the ordinances and restrictions and creating kind of a tourism corridor themselves, either it be a study or let's make it a little bit user-friendly for a distillery to come in, to set up shop in your county so you can reap those benefits. So that, I would suggest it would be something maybe the magistrates look into what the laws are here in Bullitt County.
If anything, it's a start for a change of mindset.
Yeah. Well, you also have to, because this involves the planning and zoning, and we have a joint planning commission, you are going to involve 8 cities in this process. The primary city you're going to involve in this process is Shepherdsville, because there are no corridors that I know of that currently exist in the other cities that would probably qualify for a scenic bypass. But again, it's going to be more than the county, and yes, you have to propose these things, you have to get them to all of the members of that board who can either accept or decline and do what they're going to do. So we do not call the entire shots on the planning commission because of how it was structured and how it was set up. Again, we would call shots on this, correct me fellas, but is part of Chippe's Lane in the city of Shepherdsville at this point?
No.
None of it at all?
No.
They've abandoned it?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, if any part of this was in the city limits, city of Shepherdsville could do this if they chose to choose. Could still so choose because they are a city, but that it would not be within their confines, and I think they would probably be lacking jurisdiction. So it really is a county issue.
We're really at this point asking for your direction, your help, and we're after changing mindset. We really truly believe this is where the money's at in Bullitt County and the state of Kentucky. And our neighbors, we're willing to work with the planning and with Dean and anybody. We've been talking with Dean and Burnham both. Dean being our closest to the east, Burnham to our south.
That's a no-brainer issue. They're both
Right.
on tourism.
Right. I know they walk hand in hand, and it's good for Bullitt County, and eventually it'll be good for Shepherdsville, and I know it's good for the state of Kentucky. Thank you all very much for listening to us, and we look for your guidance and your help.
It's something positive, and it's a great idea, and I hope something can happen with it. It's something positive that needs to occur.
Willing to work for it.
Absolutely.
That's what
We
it
need your help.
takes. It takes the citizens to get it done.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion on that public meeting about this?
If you want to, you've heard their short presentation. I'm sure they have more to say than what I can. I think they have not presented everything they want to present, so I think it would be more appropriate time when you advertise this for the public as a whole. And they may, again, this suggests this particular area, but this one may well be that every part of the county wants to have some say in what goes on there because it may affect everybody else. If you start talking about tourism, just because you're talking about this area doesn't mean that you're not going to have people in a hotel in Hillview or places in Mount Washington and bed and breakfast. So I think your motion would be that you add this to an agenda and do a public notice that this board is going to have a hearing determining whether it would be in the best interest of Bullitt County to establish the Chippe's Lane as a scenic bypass.
Thank you.
That checklist, do we have that? Have you seen the checklist?
The application, it's in your packet.
Well, I mean, do we have that checklist? I know that Larry was working on the tourism, Ray Watkins worked on the tourism thing. We went to Jim Dean's about that, didn't we? And he had maps and everything laid out. I don't know.
His comments, or when we approached planning and zoning, there was reluctance this because of past dealings. They had presented or had done quite a bit of work and it just kind of fell through. So they asked us for, they wanted to see sport. We brought in 218 signatures and had a room full of citizens. And we'll provide a room full of citizens anytime you want. We had that support.
My concern is the Bullitt County does, like in our comprehensive plan, it doesn't have a section that we've come up with. You know, when we did that 5-year plan, there was no, I mean, they always thought about that, but they never put in there, this is our tourism. You know, this is forestry. I mean, they did, you know, R1, they did residential, they did all the commercial things, but they never added a tourism in there, which is, Bullitt County is amazing, especially, you know, that, I mean, that's the only real place you can put tourism for, because that's where a lot of tourism come in. So that's what my question was, is how hard would it be to get that checklist? If we had that meeting, say a month from now, and we had agreed to do this, what kind of difficulties would we?
I think I'm a little confused on what checklist you're actually talking about.
Just to submit the application, it says.
To the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you have the whole application?
Yes, ma'am.
He does.
I do, but it says the checklist as a resolution to apply, narrative description, visual submissions, evidence of local support, a map, and management plan.
Those are things that are not in place yet. You would do the resolution, if you decide to do this, and you would be resolving to help this group. So you would be the project sponsor, and they would be the one to it. But you will have to then acquire the maps, the digital, and all that, and that has not yet been done. That's still lacking. There's no reason for them to do that until they get the consensus that this report would actually allow the sponsorship of this as a city bypass. You basically, part of all that, you basically spend a lot of time and resources, but you have done nothing until you have a local government that will make the resolution. So I think they are wise to wait to spend the resources after they know that there is support.
Mr. Hopwell?
Yeah, one more thing. I just wanted to add one thing. I support this group highly, and I want to talk to them about the impact on the west side of 65, going over to 61. I think that I want to look at that as far as adding the 245 corridor, and I want to look at that as far as developing an orderly fashion and something that will complement the trail, because when they come off the ramp there, they see all the right. I want that to tie in with that to make the whole. This will probably be the last interchange that we can really develop right for our community, and I'm for that.
Thank you, Robbie. Robin? Oh, thought you want to say something, Luann? Oh, well, wait, Luann, and then say that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Robin.
Go ahead and get
Go ahead, Luann.
The comprehensive plan is barely 2 years old, and I have never known a comprehensive plan to be amended. Is there a way to do that, John?
Comprehensive plan can be amended yearly if they wish to do
Okay.
so. They're mandated by state law to review it every 5 years. And they do not have to re-adopt the whole comprehensive plan, or do not have to do the whole thing over. They basically restate the goals and objectives, and they can do amendments. We're lucky that we can get them to do one in 5 years, because the last one was like 18 years, I think. So, but again, I think the county is gradually, or the planning commission with Ms. Parker, who has a master's planning degree, they realize that while they did do a comprehensive plan, it is lacking in certain areas. And there's a lot of things that we have done already. I've given them about a 50 to 60 page document to totally revamp a lot of this stuff. And then you have to adopt it. But I'm hoping that with Ms. Parker and them working together, they will take and have more confidence in her, and they will listen to her more than they have listened to past administrators.
Agreed.
But we can amend the plan. We do not have to wait 5 years.
My only other comment is, I know Larry Watkins met many times with a 245 group, and that might be how this 245 group actually was established.
It was part of that, and the real bug on that, I think that caused the thing to just die was they could never agree on the size of the corridor. And there are certain property owners that are vehemently opposed to any corridor because they're not aware of it. It doesn't change the zoning. Yes, it does require development to be done in a little different fashion, which is not obtrusive. You use land counts, you scale down the building, you use more buffering, more landscape. But we never got to that point because the group, for whatever reason, could not reach their own consensus. And it frustrated Mr. Watkins and the board, so they just basically set it aside. Now, quite honestly, if the county is going to have a hearing on Trapeze Lane, they would be foolish not to include 245 from at least 65 east to Nelson County. Unfortunately, we already have problems that are west of the interchange because we have buildings sitting there that are not going anywhere and are a problem. So, what's done is done, but I think the county, and everybody understands that when you get off, if you're a tourist, you're not going west, you're going east. You're going toward Bernheim, you're going to Beams, you're going to Barstow. So that really needs to be tied in if we're going to do this in one point. If we don't need to do half a pie, we can just make a whole pie at the same time. Ms. Harper may disagree with me, or she may say that that's a good idea.
Representative Johnson.
She's not saying a word.
Yeah,
Sure.
First off, I want to say I'm not envious of anybody that's up on the front of this bench up here today because y'all had a good job to do and a great job you've done. So I'm thankful for all of our magistrates and for our judge. I'm glad that there's a government in Shepherdsville that knows how to make things work. And there's a lot to be done, and I know that there's also a lot of things that are undone. I was listening as our county attorney was saying there's always pros and cons on everything, and I want to say that what a great way today to kind of, I think, bring up one of the last things on the agenda, and it's a very positive thing, Judge, as you said, and I endorse these folks 100%. Bill Kidd and Steve have done an incredible job. I was listening as we were hearing some of the history over there. I researched some of that myself, but I'll tell you what, I would like to record that one and just have it for a bedtime story. That was perfect, and I saw our radio voice sure up, Steve, I'm telling you. But Ms. Harper, I know too, some of the things that are going on, some of the things that our attorney has informed us in there. This is the first process. I love the fact, because I'm on the tourism board, and along with 3 other committees, rather, and the tourism thing is an incredible thing. And I'm just excited that this is part of the conversation today. An investment of $1 to 15, I mean, let's all sign up. And that's a fact. That is an absolute fact. And so I've stood up for the tourism industry in our state, but I, of course, stand up for the tourism in Bullitt County first. And there's not a greater investment that we can have, and especially right now, as we're looking for retirement money and pension money and all these kind of things that are there, and judicial money, and just a lot of things. Good investments right now are prime. And with our state looking for resources, every county don't have what we have. This is an amazing thing. Some of the things that's been discussed recently with this outer loop that's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. Wow, what a great opportunity for Trapeze Lane. What a great opportunity for Jim Beam and our facility. This is incredible. It is incredible. My big thing right now, the only reason I sat back there today, I didn't want to talk about a lot of things that a lot of other people didn't want to talk about. But when we got to this, I wanted to talk about it because I think this is something everybody here can agree on. And it
It is something that we're preserving our history. And, I just got back from a trip in Korea, and I was blown away with how much they've grown since I was there last, in about 2003. I looked at it as kind of, and I hate to even say this, but we were about equal. Our interstates, our roads, our bridges, our if you're talking about a mega city or one of the largest cities in the world compared to like New York, Manhattan, Los Angeles, and things like that. When I'm going back now, some, 10 years or so later, they're ahead of us, way ahead of us. I don't like to say that. I never want to say that. Being an American, I don't want to say that. I believe we're in a place of growth, and a place of coming out of some bad issues. But one of the things I heard them harp on is green and environmental and preserving history, and they don't allow things to destroy what their history is. I thought that's really, we always think that's an American thing, and it should be. But today what we're hearing is an opportunity to preserve history and an opportunity at the same time to grab a hold of tourism, an industry that God blessed Bullitt County with. I mean, this is a blessing. Some of the history we have. I've traveled a lot around the country, and there's some states that I wonder how they have so much tourism, because there's some real ugly states. It's American, I love all of it. Yeah. But I mean, when you can make a Branson out of Missouri, I mean, if you travel through Missouri, come on, I'm glad I hope we don't have a lot of Missouri folks there, I'll be in trouble. But Branson is incredible, but the rest of Missouri is not so incredible. There's some places in Arkansas, and I grew right on the border of Arkansas. And, they call that an opportunity state, the first one you get to leave, I think. But there's some great tourism places there. And the reason I'm even saying this is because we as Bullitt Countyans have some things that a lot of folks don't have, but we as Kentuckians do. We have a beautiful state, and we have a county that is full. I know I've got 3 minutes, I think I read that on the list. That's after you look at your clock, right? So, but here's what I want to say. Why don't we, and I heard what John was saying, I appreciate that, because I think if every one of our officials, and I know our judge is 100% with this, but if every one of us get behind this, I know we can pull this off. We can make this work. And all the things I've done in about 5 of these meetings over there, they have got a riled up group, I'll tell you. But it's for good reason. And I also know the pro and con situation, John, you spoke of, because I've met with some of the neighbors that are not on board with this. But I know that we can be. I know that everyone can come together with this. There's enough here for our county to get behind this and work this out and make it work. I believe it can be one of the biggest income bringers to this community that we've ever had. I think it can just grow and flourish. It's already there. I happened to make the little bourbon festival there in Bardstown. And a lot of our legislators invited last week for one of those casting things. I call it communion. But anyhow, that's scratched out. But anyway, everybody here, if you can, I think this is one of those programs that we can all get behind. And I know somewhere between right here and the planning part of this county, we can make this work. I know this. And this is a very important thing. And I was trying to be quiet today, but this one brought me out. I had to say something. But thank you all. God bless you. Glad to be here today. And thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Representative. Let me ask, magistrates, what time would you prefer the public hearing for this request?
Judge, I would like the 17th. The next meeting is Albright. I think a lot of people will be out of town. 17th, I would prefer.
You would prefer October the 17th, right?
Yes, sir. Would it have to be during court?
No, it doesn't have to be during court. You can hold a public hearing at any time.
Oh, okay.
You get more time.
Yeah.
Well, if you're starting to look at, you want the maximum participation, obviously if you set it at 6:30 or so in the evening, don't pick a Wednesday, which is a church night, don't pick a Friday, don't pick a Monday or so. You are going to conflict with a couple of cities. You have to look at the calendar. So you ask now Washington and Shepherdsville do on Monday and Tuesday nights, or both Monday a day, a week when they're there, and you pick a 6:30 to have your meeting, you'll have a better chance of having probably a maximum turnout.
I'll tell you what, whenever you all, if you want my office to put it out, just email Lisa Cradoff or Candy Renfro, and she'll be happy to get it out. Let's just leave it like that.
Can we just schedule it for like the 17th at 6:30?
Sure, if you know now, yeah.
That sound good with everybody too?
Did you say October the 17th?
Yeah.
At
I mean, that'll give them 30 days to
At
everybody
6:30.
get it in the paper a couple times.
So October the 17th at 6:30, and then we have a fiscal court meeting at 9:30 on that same day.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tom, will you put that in the paper? Thank you so very much. So that's taken care of. And then, okay, we're good to go. And my office is good and we need to get here.
Would folks at Tourism Bureau get involved in this?
They want to know.
I mean, will they be notified other than just reading the paper?
I'm sure that Mr. Kidd will notify them.
And they meet that night at 4:30 anyway, so they might.
It's just here. We'll use this room.
Okay, October the 17th, 6:30 p.m. public hearing in the fiscal court room concerning the designated scenic corridor for Shadiz Lane. Don't forget fiscal court, 9:30 in the morning.
Be a good day.
As long as things are good. Okay,
One other thing, Judge, if you can.
sure, yeah.
I know you you're not exempt from this because on this list, I think I think Senator Syme, all of our legislators, every single magistrate here has been listed, but I've been asked to try to get this on the agenda, and what happened yesterday on Greenbrier was the semi-tractor trailer rigs, they're doing some construction over there in an area, and they have these huge, larger, oversized trucks coming through. They ran off some of our Bullitt County school buses off the road yesterday. It's on video, and it's not good, because the kids in there, there is really no, shoulder there to get off on some of those areas, and, this group, I think there's a lady, Cindy Goldman Robertson, that had started this Facebook thing. Anyway, all of us are listed in this. I'm just one, but they're wanting, and I know we've had transportation out there. We've had the Department of Transportation out there. They've taken rides. I've been involved with them trying to get help. I know Russell Weber's ridden with them, but they're this yesterday showed the fact that there's some real danger to our children and to our children of our county. So something, I don't know the answer to that. This morning before I got here, I spent a lot of time on the phone trying to figure out what could be done. But they're wanting this on the agenda this next fiscal quarter if it can be, Your Honor. And I guess that would be the improved Greenbrier Wells Run Road.
Sure, we can put it on the October, whatever that date is. October 3rd.
Okay. And I wish I had an answer. I'm trying to find it like everybody else is. I know there's a shortage of funds for the highway, the roads. A lot of this is whose responsibility is it? That being said, the danger that's there, we've got to do something.
And we have Dennis Maxwell here that wants to speak today, so he might be able to bring more into that. Dennis, you want to go ahead? Good afternoon, Mr. Maxwell.
Good
Glad you could make it.
I'm sorry, it's afternoon. I'm with Cindy on that improved Greenbrier Wells Run Road group, Facebook group. There's a lot that I can fill Mr. Johnson in on about yesterday's situation. There were two vehicles hauling flatbed, very large concrete conduits. They appear to have been at least 12 foot. They were guided by a lighted vehicle. They had a wide load, had no idea if they had permits. But I saw one heading towards Middlesbrough, right in the middle of Mount Washington. And then I see later, he's coming back the other way, and makes that hard turn down Greenbrier. That truck's the one that got the photo. Right before the Wheels Run Bridge, that truck with such wide load is, I've got the picture here on my phone if anybody wants to see it. That truck, I'm gonna say, is off the road at least 6 foot, so that that concrete edge would be near the center of the road, forcing the bus to also be 4 or 5 feet off the road, plus the trail of cars. Now, those vehicles, we believe, were just passed out of Elizabethtown, picked that equipment up. The trucking company's name is Burgess. I have the phone number, I will call them to verify that that was their load. They both worked together and delivered to the community park those pieces of concrete. We've been lobbying for that road to be restricted to that kind of a vehicle. Apparently, there's a clause in 189.222, paragraph 1, section F, that is an exclusion to a 44,000-pound limit on a Class A road. It allows for to haul 80,000 pounds only because the road is within 15 miles of an interstate. That road is classified rural residential. It is broken, cracked, falling apart, deep ditches, etc. We did have Representative Tom Wright from KYTC come tour the road with Russell Weber. We gave him a list of problems. Most of them were ditch lines and things of that nature, which he said the state cannot deal with because the right of way is too small. Well, they can if they buy property. But basically, they're not going to. At this point, they're working on it. They have committed to try to put a bridge crossing Wells Creek on Wells Run Road. They're going to run rails on both sides, widen the shoulder, and attach guardrails. Funding has been found to do that. No timeline set. They are waiting on the actual numbers from the drillers to put the rail crossings up there. We have accomplished getting a no shoulder sign put up on both sides of Wells Creek. This group in Facebook is following knowledge with Greenbrier Wells Run Road, the straight shot from 44, and County Road Greenbrier, which is why I came not knowing things to appeal.
I was gonna be.
I didn't know you were going to be here. I came to ask a question. We've had some tomfoolery going on, if anybody's old enough to know tomfoolery, on County Road Greenbrier. People are putting up their own signs to keep heavy loads off the road. They put one up on the county's speed limit sign that showed a dump truck with a red circle and a line to it. It was only there 24 hours. But people are trying to send a message who live somewhere near there or whatever. What I saw, and I have pictures of, is that a sign has been put up on County Road Greenbrier indicating an 18-ton weight limit. I'm here to ask if that is legitimate or another joke. I see Mr. Rouse's left.
You would have to ask the county road foreman.
I did.
For the most part, the county road foreman says all roads in Bullitt County are 36,000 pound weight limits. The same they do on all bridges, even though they may well be able to hold 80,000 pounds. The dilemma that you have is that there are numerous specific state statutes. And while you may prohibit, you may set a weight limit on the road, you cannot keep a tri-axle, you cannot keep a concrete truck, you cannot keep delivery vehicle off of those roads because they exempt them from making deliveries. Now, if
Let me step in there because I wasn't finished talking.
if they're not making a delivery, the weight limits would apply.
Okay. This is a county road. KRS plus state interstate. County's put up a sign of 18 tons. To me, that's pretty fat up. Concrete truck will hold 60 to 70,000 pounds. My point of view, That is prohibited. This court can issue a permit. But 189.222, paragraph 1, section F, does not apply to county roads.
I won't argue with that.
Is that an interstate statute?
But there's other statutes too, so I can't pick one.
I'd be glad to know what they are, because I'm here to ask if that's a legitimate sign. I got no answers, so I don't know. And my next question would be to Sheriff Tittle, you know, are we going to try to enforce that? And if we do, I have other comments to make. They're going to apply to the residents and the traffic in and out of that subdivision and the city mayor. It's going to move the congestion of those trucks and traffic off of the county road on Highway 42.
Part of the weight limit, you'd have to go with the DOT, it would be the sheriff's department.
Well,
No, I'm asking the sheriff department, that's a legitimate sign, and it is 36 hours. I expect it to be enforced.
I couldn't tell you that's a legitimate sign.
I don't know, nobody can.
I think somebody could.
I asked Mike, and he didn't respond.
he didn't respond?
He did not respond.
Well, you need to ask him if there is such a sign, show him a picture of it.
There's a sign.
Ask him if that is a county place sign.
There is a sign, I sent him the picture, he doesn't respond.
But he should.
It's on the bottom of the speed limit sign, and it's brand new sign, brand new bolt, brand new pole on both ends.
I doubt if he put it up there.
I'd say he did. Why would he brand new pole, brand new signs on both ends of the road?
But he still answer your question in this case.
I'm saying it's yours, he did not. He has the picture. So, I guess I can't do anything more, other than just talk.
Do we still want to put this on the agenda for next?
I would say yes, you know,
But a separate issue.
yeah,
The Greenbrier Wells Run is a state road.
yeah.
It's only involved with the county road because it's the same difference.
And go there.
You're right.
County road on.
Judge, I'm not sure, Dennis, would know more
We'll put it
on,
on there, that's okay.
okay,
All we talk about is county road.
yeah. What,
And that's about it.
Mr. Rouse should be at the next meeting too as well.
Well, he was here county on
Got it right, yeah.
I'll find him.
Dennis, the one thing man, watching that video over and over again, I'm over there almost probably two, 3 times a week just to drive those roads. It bothers me. And then to see that yesterday, I know that the state situation, John, in a sense, but even.
Well, the question I have is, what, is there actually even a safe route to get what they're trying to haul to that site?
Yes.
Is there one?
Yes, sir, you go up I-65, you get off at Gene Snyder, you exit Gene Snyder down Highway 31.
No,
You
I'm
come
talking
in the
about
back.
back on the back road.
You come in the back way, you get the delivery.
But what road are you gonna come in on?
You gotta come in on Highway 31.
I'm not talking 31, I'm talking about just small roads. I know what 31 is.
I'm trying to lead you, sir.
Go ahead, but just give me.
You do not get off from Elizabethtown and Shepherd, you go up to Gene Snyder, you get off on Gene Snyder, Marshtown Road, Landis Lane, Parkview.
That's right there. That's, Landis Lane is probably no wider than Greenbrier, is it? So we have the same, once we get off the major road, we're gonna have the same problem regardless to get to the site where this stuff is going.
Hey, John, my thought is this, Dennis, and that, because I realize the real solution to this, would either have to have a bypass or to have, that's a big deal. But what I'm thinking, seeing that yesterday, is to get that truck and that bus to where they're not butting up against each other, and we've got children hanging off the side of the road. That can't happen. There needs to be some pull-offs, there needs to be some pull-offs to try to calm that down some. And I'm not talking about
vehicle yesterday.
short-term solutions, what I'm talking about, John.
It's not isolated case, but it was the biggest one I've ever seen on that road.
Here,
Okay, now one other thing, that part will be done this time next year. So we keep talking about it until it's done, won't be no more trucks.
No, what I'm saying, Dennis, is if we could have short term and get some pull-offs, at least that'll save children from being hurt or killed.
Let me tell you this about County Road Greenbrier, this is from the bus drivers. They carry radios so they can let each other know where they are on County Road Greenbrier, because 2 buses can't go down there for opposite directions. They carry radios.
Mr. Axel, what's the area?
If it's a problem with school buses, can they make their deliveries when school buses aren't on the road?
These are concrete trucks.
Well, I mean, still can they deliver when school buses aren't on the road? I mean, if they're delivering into that area.
I'm not a contractor.
Well, I realize that, but is that something that can be done legally?
There is a schedule published on when the buses run.
I was gonna say, I think when you're like these, I don't know if they're called modular homes or trailers.
Yeah.
Why those, there's only certain hours I think they can be on the road.
That's actually a good, I thought about that too, that's a good idea, something that could be done, scheduled.
If you have your own wheel truck, you could require them to deliver tires, but you could get the city who's working this project to say that any delivery of an old wheel truck would have to be done from, say, 9 o'clock at night to 4 in the morning. So then you actually have less traffic out
Yeah.
that way.
Of course, yesterday's issue, there was other equipment involved, large cranes, there were 4 semis altogether, take these 2 pieces of concrete, put them in the ground.
But if they would attempt to schedule, it could
Could
probably
be
eliminate a lot of the problem.
Yeah.
Car and bus, not a problem. 2 buses on Greenbrier, Wales Run, tight. County Road Greenbrier can't be done. You can't put 2 school buses opposite directions on that road. They call each other, so we're arguing. They know where each other is.
John, what could we
Of course,
do?
you have to plan your wives to carry their kids in.
What could we do to get a schedule and work together maybe with the state to get some pullovers or whatever, how we have to do that?
First thing we have to do is determine the actual right of way. A lot of those roads are probably 30 feet, they'll be 40 in some places, you might find an occasional 50 feet, but those are old roads. The state will have right of way. The state normally has a deed to the property. County, we have a lot of places we do not have basically deeds, so we use ditch to ditch. If you have a right of way, it's just a matter of getting a piece of equipment out there, excavating out sufficient soil to get a rock base down. It wouldn't even have to get blacktop immediately. If you could get a dense packed
That's what we need.
aggregate, you could do that.
Let's do it. Another thing, that's that wisdom of being around all this for a long time, but the first thing the state did, Dennis, that I know of, is to do the very thing, the questions you asked, what other routes can be done? And so there's already, I say a study somewhat, but.
What happened?
No, let me finish this though.
Get your
What
GPS
happened?
out, track.
Huh?
Get your GPS out, punch in.
No,
Details.
what I'm saying though, the same thing that John said in the questions is you end up with the same situation only on another road, the width. That's the issue to have, and that's a growth issue. But
I can't support what John said factually about Lincoln. I don't know its facts. I do know it's divided in the middle, and it was built by the city for the purpose of accessing the industrial park we're talking about.
well, I think we're on to something.
No.
It was there before, then they extended it. Last time was not built for that industrial park. It served the park, but it.
When they put the police station up on the corner.
It's on the corner.
They lied on Lincoln.
Yeah, Mr. Griffey's been trying to work.
Are you having fun?
City of Washington, and they're trying to work with the state, and they have alternate efforts. But quite honestly, Mr. Johnson, the only way this is really going to be rectified is for a Class A highway to be constructed that will serve this industrial park and this park and connect it with 31, which is a bypass. And this, we already can tell you that it's not going to be done by the state. It's going to have to be done by a city or a private entity, and then hopefully the state will take it over. But, and in the meantime, I understand, we've got problems. And if we can schedule, if city could schedule with contractors immediately after this, that may hopefully keep a serious accident from occurring. But you take this as a step, and the first step is try to eliminate the actual timelines that they would hit each other. And if we could get people to cooperate up there, that would take care of most of that. Unfortunately, the county doesn't have the total control over this one. This is probably more within the city of Mount Washington that you're going to be needing to talk to about this.
Suggest, I mean, I live in a Washington, my whole point was, we don't even want, after that park is constructed, there's still going to be trucks coming out of those buildings, and I think it's a really bad plan to have big trucks going by where little kids are going to be running across the street. So can we go the other way? And you're right, where you're talking about coming from the Snyder. What we're looking at is there are some cut-ins on the bypass where you could come through, and for a very short place, actually make a pretty good sized road where they could come straight out there and get on the bypass and go. That's what I propose.
Where would you terminate that?
Where the bypass.
On Flatback or on 44?
No, it wouldn't be 44.
It's well below.
So you're back in the same,
So you're going straight out.
You're going right straight down Greenbrier Road.
No, it's the other way. It's the exact opposite way.
Okay.
I'll show you on that.
I wish you would, because the other incentive of that road, Park Lane, Lannis Lane, Parkview Avenue, is to get traffic away from downtown Mount Washington. It's a bypass around Mount Washington.
This is a different.
The mayor don't like those words.
Again, the city has to do it. The city has to do it because one, it's not afraid.
Not gonna happen.
I'll show you.
Please do.
I know, I'll show you.
I took about
5 bucks.
You Butch Johnson.
I was running this across down.
I don't want to be on scene with you, Robert.
Just legitimate, but I wouldn't put it past.
Somebody, you've got a
I
contract.
really would, it looks legit.
I'll second the motion.
Brand new pole, brand new sign, brand new bolts to the pole.
Okay, what we're doing is we're going to put this on the agenda for October the 3rd, and we have a motion and a second for adjournment. Any questions or discussions? Anybody opposed to it?
I believe.